This is Perspective is a Motherfucker. Sit back, strap in, and relax. Cue transition. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Perspective is a Motherfucker. I am your host, Aaron Streater. Hope everyone's having a great week out there. My week has been very interesting, to say the least. Just note to self, if you do have an animal, whether it's a dog, a cat, or anything else in between, get yourself some pet insurance. Otherwise, you're going to be like me, having a 400 plus bill. You know, it was well within my means, and I wasn't going to let him, anything bad happen to him. So, and he's in his crate right now because I'm not trying to wake up to a puddle when I get back. So, there's that. Other than that, week's been pretty good. Doing a lot of ripping and running, as always. There's somebody that you're going to be hearing from that is very familiar. He was actually a former guest. This is actually his first video debut on the podcast. I want to go and introduce you guys to JP3.
Hello, Perspective is a Motherfucker podcast, now video. How are things going?
Doing good, man. How about you? I know you've been tearing up the tracks.
Yeah, we did a little bit of a little autocross over at the firm down in Stark, Florida. So that was fun weekend before last.
Okay.
Nice little chance to shake down the car, see where we're at, and take some notes to how to improve in the future.
Okay, so I know you've been in the cars as long as I've known you, but what got you into especially Rotary and even cars in general?
Let's see. Well, one, first thing that got you in the cars is freedom. So
yeah.
When I was in high school, it didn't really matter what it was. If it had an engine and it could take me where I wanted to go, that was it. But once you get basic transportation, you start hanging out, meeting some new people. So there were a couple guys in high school that had cool cars, had just wheeled audio, basic stuff.
Okay.
So start hanging out with some of them, the football team, soccer team. Generally, a lot of the athletes ended up being guys that also, did a little bit of something to their cars. So
nice.
That was kind of the initial transition. Went off to school, did an internship, and right before I left, my car got hit by a drunk driver in Tallahassee and totaled it. This is like a week before I'm supposed to drive up to Boston.
Oh my God.
So I had no transportation, and so I'm out there looking, trying to find something so I can get up there.
Okay.
And that's when I started looking into different models of cars. So I was looking at something that was going to be a little bit more fun than a Honda Civic.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, insurance companies being what they are, they want to drag their feet. They don't want to, cut a check in a reasonable time frame. So I ended up stuck with a 99 Toyota Camry.
I mean,
with summer tires on it.
I mean, reliable,
yeah. But driving to Boston in the middle of winter.
Oh my God!
On summer tires is not something that you should do. Not
definitely. Essentially a metal box, and on those slippery roads. It's not
Yeah, see, you're from up there. You're from the frigid north. You're from north of the wall, so you know what all that nonsense is about. You all got white walkers and all sorts of nonsense popping out in the road.
There's nothing worse than when you have literally tires and where you go 20 feet and it goes spin out.
Yeah,
you have to literally drive 20 miles. And then you see to the right of you, to the left of you, people that didn't want to go and drive lower than that. They're in a ditch or they're off to the side of the road stuck.
I have one ditch experience, fortunately. I was aware that I was driving on the wrong tires for the season, so I was very cautious. But even still, there was one little roundabout, and I ended up sliding to a ditch at 2.5 miles an hour. It's the slowest slide that you have ever seen in your life.
Yeah.
But, live and learn. I made it out unscathed. The car didn't have any kind of major incidents, no accidents. So I actually sold it when I got back on eBay.
Okay.
And then used that money to go buy my first RX-7. And so that's kind of where that started.
Okay. So how long have you had your RX-7 for now?
Well, I currently have an RX-8. Sold the RX-7.
The red one.
Yeah. Yeah, year before last.
Okay.
Which unfortunately in this current automotive market we're in was just a little bit too soon. I probably could have sold it for twice as much if I had waited a year.
Twice as much?
Yes, it's crazy. Used car values are, especially sports cars.
Yeah, I mean, it was, I'm definitely looking into, when I get a little bit more funds, to get I had a very badass 98 Chevy Blazer, lowered, steel forged internals. The only reason why I even know any of that stuff is I got it from a buddy, and unfortunately, I only had it for a couple weeks, and we didn't end up changing the oil. It ended up blowing up. I was very upset. But it was badass. It had a push button, not like a push button start like in a regular. It was like push button with the silver, and it just started off.
Like a toggle switch, like a race car.
Yeah, it was nice. It was nice. It had the race car, but yeah, it was. That was my first ever. That was a badass car. I want another one of those.
Well, I want you to change your oil.
Yeah.
And so does your future car.
Yes.
Please, if you don't do anything else, change the oil. Yeah. And make sure you tighten the drain plug when you put it on there, but not too tight. Yeah. You don't want to strip the threads and then create a problem.
Okay. So you were the first one that, because I had no idea what a rotary engine was. So I was like, what the hell is that shit? You mean a rotary telephone? I was like, yeah, I mean, all I knew was V8, V6, and then maybe a V10. I didn't know, because I know, what's a rotary engine? First, let's start
that's something that's a little bit difficult to explain without visual aids. Okay. But in a normal engine, just imagine you've got a box and you've got pistons inside the box, and the pistons go up and down and up and down. Okay. And connecting the pistons is a long shaft with different lobes on it, so that as the piston goes up and down in the cylinder, that motion spins the crankshaft, and then that's what outputs the power to the flywheel or to the transmission, whatever have you. In a rotary, you have two rotors, or trochloids is they're technically called, operating in two housings that are not quite ovals. They've got a little waist to them. And so the rotor spins around inside of that housing, and it's got what's called an eccentric shaft, which basically is like the crankshaft. And then that's what outputs power to the transmission behind the car, airplane, or whatever you're putting it in. They even made single rotor snowmobiles, and some people have taken those engines, put them in go-karts. But it was a cool design, and they love high revs because unlike in a piston engine where pistons go up and then they go down, it takes a lot of energy to stop and then start. In a rotary, the rotors only spin in one direction. There's never any stop or any start. So it makes for a very smooth operating engine and one that likes to rev the high RPMs, which in a racing context are things that are generally good.
So is that why it's mainly in racing style cars instead of your Honda Civics or your Toyota Camry?
Exactly. That's one reason. The other reason is that because of the design of the rotary, at least a two-rotor engine, they don't produce a lot of torque, which means that if you put a rotary engine in a heavy car, it's going to struggle. It's like you're not going to put a little 1.5 liter four cylinder in a Suburban and try to get that down the road. That would be a painful experience. Okay. Right. So that's why you don't typically see rotaries in larger vehicles unless it's a multi-rotor engine. They actually did make a rotary bus in Japan. It was a small bus, but it was a larger rotary engine that obviously wouldn't really work in a car format.
Okay. So. And for you now, I know you said, so how long have you been as far as, would that technically be what you were doing out and start competition? Or?
Yeah, so that's Autocross. Autocross is a form of motorsport where you're driving around a predetermined course, that's marked out with a bunch of orange cones. Okay. And you're competing against the clock. So it's not wheel to wheel, so you don't have to worry about, I'm next to this driver, he's not so good, and he's going to bump into me, damage my car. Sure. Because you get people with all sorts of things at Autocross. It's cool because it's, low barrier to entry. The entry fees don't cost very much. You can just come out one time with anything, really, and there's classes for everybody. So you can kind of get in where you fit in with whatever you bring out to the track. You can run, you can see where you stack up against other cars. Because a lot of times you see everybody on the street is, Mario Andretti. They're the next Ayrton Senna at the stoplight with their little ex-police cruiser with some wheels on it.
Of course.
But you could take them on an actual track and you get to see what's really up. And there's a lot of people that think they're drivers and they come out to Autocross and they find out, no, they're not drivers at all. Yeah. But the great thing is it's a community where everybody's trying to teach you. Everybody's trying to encourage you. They want motorsport to grow. And so if you're willing to learn, there's no shortage of people that are willing to help you get better.
I feel like especially nowadays, I feel like driving really well is a lost art, where you have people that I don't know what it is. Like, how did you get your license? I ask myself that every time I'm in the car, all the time, because half of these people, I'm like, there's no way.
Well, it's a number of factors. One, this is America, right?
That it is.
And if you've ever driven, especially in Europe, Germany is a great example. Like, America has low standards for driving and driver's licenses. The driver's test is a joke. Go take a test to drive on the Autobahn in Germany.
Ooh.
That's a real driving test.
Yeah.
Now people are passing driver's tests without even parallel parking. So it's not really surprising that you have people with licenses that are terrible drivers. The other issue is you look at modern cars. There are too many distractions. All these infotainment screens, a giant iPad, you got a touchscreen television right there in the dash. Why are people going to be messing with that? They're going to be playing with that. Yeah. Even radios. Before when you had a little dial, a little knob, and little physical preset buttons for the radio, you could keep your eyes on the road. The knob is round. You can turn up the volume. You can count out the presets to go to the different radio stations. You didn't have to take your eyes off the road. Now with the touchscreen, you can't even see where the buttons are unless you're taking your eyes down off the road.
And then unless you stop. But a lot of the times people aren't paying attention. I mean, we see, at least once a day somewhere on any one of these bridges across the city, more times than not, you have people just 2 cars on the side of the road, one ran into the back, and now they're waiting. Now they're waiting for the authorities to come and things like that.
As a general rule, I find that it's safest to be the fastest or the slowest thing on the road. You only want to be looking at traffic and looking at potential dangers and obstacles in one direction. So if I'm the fastest thing on the road, all I care about what's in front of me. Yeah. Because I'm not going to get rear-ended. Yeah. And if I'm the slowest thing on the road, I just got to make sure that I glance up, in that rear view, make sure nothing's coming up on me. But usually when you're moving slow, like in the far right lane, where slow people should be, people have no problem getting in the middle lane or the fast lane to go around you. Yeah.
And also, it's one of those things where not the person in front of you, but the person that's in front of them will just hold it up to where there's been times where I had to slow down and the guy in back of me by this much because he didn't want to go and slow down. It's just like,
Well, effective driving is maintaining situational awareness, whether that's on the track or whether that's on the road, on the interstate. Yeah. A lot of people gave up on checking their mirrors on a regular basis. Whole time I'm cruising down the interstate, left mirror, right mirror, rear view. Keep on going through the pattern, checking, making sure you know what's around you. Because if something crazy happens in front, if a deer jumps over the fence and runs in the road, you need to know, do I have room on the right, or is there a tractor trailer there that I'm going to run up under?
Exactly. And deer or something, oh my God, that thing can destroy a car.
Yep, it certainly can. Now, fortunately, the deer in Florida are pretty small, so you got a chance.
Yeah, the ones
up
north.
But the further north you hit,
golly, and it's just there's a couple that get stuck in. It's horrible. It's a mess.
Yep, no, don't envy that at all.
Nah,
not one bit.
So, what's been going on, with you? Because I know you were, still doing the sourcing, things like that. As far as I know, last time we spoke, it's gotten a lot more serious, and now it's just of, having, of course, you're the guy with the systems. So, I mean, I know you started out from, thrifting. Well, I feel like thrifting in like a business way instead of, I see all these people thrifting where it's just like, oh, I have a, thrift haul or whatever else is like you're actually making a profit and actually. So how's that going?
So that's going good. As a matter of fact, I've kind of shifted focus from, doing the everyday thrift route, onesie, twosies, find some cool stuff here or there. Maybe you don't, to, like you said, more of a business perspective, more of a business approach. And part of business is economies of scale. So typically the larger quantities that you buy, the larger quantities you produce, there's efficiencies to be gained there.
Yeah.
So I started looking at buying lots, buying larger orders of merchandise for resale. So I actually haven't bought anything new in 2022 thus far.
Okay, that last thing was when I helped you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was actually, technically, that was the end of 2021.
That was a lot.
That was purchased. Now, I didn't actually pick it up and take physical possession of the inventory until January.
Yeah.
But that deal was done.
Yeah, that was a lot of stuff.
Yeah, a ton of stuff. But, when I price it out on a per piece basis, it's cheaper than I could go to a thrift store every day for 3 months or more, probably, to try to get that same amount of stuff. And I'd be paying more per piece for every single one of them than what I paid for this lot.
Yeah.
But the challenge is, the only reason that deal was available was because the seller was insistent because he needed the space. That's what he needed more than anything.
Oh.
He wasn't as concerned about the profit. He needed to clear space. I mean, it was all in his house. It was all in the garage.
That it was. Jeez.
He was inundated. So, look, you can take it, but you got to take all of it. And so he had a lot of people like, oh, I want this piece. I want that piece. I'll give you an extra $50. Just sell it to me. But that wasn't what he wanted.
I need it all gone.
Yeah,
which, I mean,
you got to understand people's motivations. So
exactly.
For the fact that I was able to come and take all of it off of his hands, that's what empowered me to get that kind of a deal. So looking for more stuff like that moving forward, just to be a little bit more efficient.
Yeah, that's great, man. Especially, I remember when you first started, like, sourcing, and this was when you were still, with the company. And it was something that wasn't bearing fruit right away, but it's something you believed in. And I think the biggest thing is there's several ways to skin a cat. There's several ways to make money. There's several ways to live the life that you want to live. Now, I'm sure as far as with your, prior experience, as far as in mortgages, also in insurance, even doing like data analytics or an analyst, that would you ever would have thought that this is what you'd be doing now?
No. At no point did I envision that this was an actual path to, a career or like a real income, which is funny because remember when I got that car, I sold it on eBay. So I think I sold that car back in 2005, 2006, sometime around that time frame. That was a few $1,000s. So I came on eBay as a seller. First item I ever sold was a couple $1,000s, and then I sell anything again for over a decade.
Yeah,
because I just viewed it as, you go on there, you're looking for, a pair of shoes that's been discontinued that you really like maybe somebody's got them up there, or, you want a set of wheels, right? And you're willing to, take them up. They got a couple scuffs. You're going to get them repainted anyway. So you're looking for a deal. And I just figured people cleaned out their garages. You do spring cleaning, like what's left over after the garage sale. That, in my mind, was kind of what went on eBay. So this idea that you're going to create a full-time income really seemed kind of far-fetched. Because as you're very much aware, the traditional mantra is, go to school, get good grades, get a good job. And I was very much, brought up in that vein, in that kind of mold. So, it wasn't until, getting out, getting some exposure to entrepreneurship and talking with different people who kind of charted their own path that I started to expand and start to see other ideas as being viable, as a way to kind of move forward and make your own lane in the world.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how it's different when you see people you don't know, like, living these extravagant lives, or even to where they live life on their own terms. But when you start to get to the point where you can do that on your own, it seems possible. It doesn't seem so far-fetched, where you have so many people that I got to work all these hours. Well, you got to figure out, what do you actually need to survive? We need food, we need shelter, we need water, and you need clothing. there's a lot of stuff that we have to ourselves, like, that we really don't need. There's a difference between need and wants.
This is
I
true.
mean, there's certain things where people are saying, I'm barely getting by. Well, are you really, like, what are you spending your money on? Because it seems like my perspective on that is we build our own prisons. There's a lot of stuff that I'd say for the most part I'm a minimalist. A lot of stuff that I have that's been given to me. I don't really buy a lot of stuff. Like this hoodie, for instance, I bought this in Venice. Venice Beach, but I don't buy clothes like that. It's just I'll buy food more than anything else. Because I am a foodie. I think you give me that look. But it's one of the things that I've noticed where, like, where is your money going? And it's where it's not on the Starbucks, but it's more of how much money, a lot of people, they make the same amount of money every single week or every other 2 weeks or things like that. So you know exactly what's coming in. So how are you, like, other than, let's say, student loans or things that pop up, I don't understand as far as rent. You qualified for this place. Otherwise, you wouldn't be in the motherfucker. So it doesn't make any sense where a lot of people, they get just where they need to be, and then, of course, they lose their job and things like that. And as long as you're paying your rent, it doesn't matter how that happens. But you qualified for a place. You had to make so much money. And now you can't afford, I'm not even going to get into rent increases or anything like that. I'm just talking about, that's a whole separate topic, but it just, things aren't mathing. Like, do you understand where I'm coming from?
Did you say mathy?
Mathing. Things aren't mathing.
Okay. I think I understand what that word is supposed to mean.
Okay. Things don't make sense.
People don't make sense. That's the thing. People make decisions emotionally, and then they justify with logic.
Yeah.
So it's not a math equation when someone decides that they want to spend $200 at the bar buying drinks for girls and go home with somebody else instead of putting that money aside and putting it towards their rent. That wasn't a mathematical equation.
That was emotional.
Yes. If they would look at numbers on that, they would see that was a low percentage shot. You try to chuck it up from half court to win 50,000 in the next game. That's not likely to take place, good sir. So they would have made a different choice. Yeah. But, people are emotional creatures for the most part.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of these poor decisions come from. At the same time, you have to be honest with yourself in terms of what actually brings you joy in life. Like, we live in very much a consumer-based society.
Yeah.
Every image that you see when you're watching TV, when you're on Instagram, when you're scrolling Facebook, I mean, heck, your phone's going to be sending you advertisements for who knows what when you get in the parking lot based on what we talked about today.
Yeah.
Right? So at every turn, someone's trying to pry your money out of your pocket and put it into a product or service that they're offering.
Yeah. So
not that that's an excuse to spend outside of your means, but someone has to be consciously aware of these things and take steps to avoid falling into that trap. Because it's very easy to do, especially when you see, oh, so-and-so's on Instagram. They just got these new shoes. I need to go get those. Oh, so-and-so's at this party. Man, I need to go and I need to be at that this weekend. You got to understand, your limited resources, what really brings you joy and happiness, and not just try to keep up with the Joneses or the whoever's.
Yeah. I
mean, I like going to the track and I like doing things with cars. So that's where I'm going to spend my limited resources.
Yeah.
Like you, I'm not hanging out buying a whole bunch of clothes at the mall. I don't need to be in the finest designer suits.
Yeah. These
are not things that bring me joy, so they're not things I'm going to spend money on.
Yeah, I feel like comfort is the biggest thing I've always liked. And, I mean, I don't mind wearing a nice suit, but there ain't nothing since some good sweatpants, a good pair of jeans, some good comfortable shoes, a hoodie. like that's ideal.
Yes, it is. I mean, and now it's more of a reality for more people because now since work from home has become more prevalent, you've got people who are doing professional work, making real salaries at home as comfortable as they want to be.
Exactly.
It's interesting now that companies are trying to call people back to the office. Yeah. People are acting hard of hearing. I think I lost the address. Where did you say it was? Peach Street. No, I thought it was Peach Lane. Oh,
right.
Maybe I'll be there tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right? So, it's a different world that we find ourselves in now. And there's a lot of adjustments that need to get made.
Yeah. So, speaking of adjustments, and of course, like new things coming up, your brother.
Yeah. So I was down at a wedding this past weekend. Yeah. So my brother has finally tied the knot.
Yeah.
He's an honest man and a happy one.
I've met him a handful of times. I met, of course, his now wife. It's funny when I met your brother, because me and my brother are definitely different. Because when I was thinking when I met your brother, he was going to be like an older you, essentially. And I was like, he's just the complete opposite. And I was like, okay.
Oh, yeah, no. If that's what you were expecting, you definitely would have been very lost.
And he's older than you, right?
No.
Okay, he's younger.
Yep.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, you looking for an older me. You should be very, very confused when you find younger Cliff.
Yeah. So you were telling me a little bit about like just Colorado and things like that. Was that your first time in Colorado?
Technically, no. I've done layovers through Colorado before, but this is the first time spending any real time in Colorado. Like actually experiencing Colorado proper, if you will. Was that
technically where you're at, like the Denver area?
Yeah, so we were in downtown Denver.
Okay.
For the most part. We did Breckenridge for one day.
Believe it or not, like there's like a black part of Denver, because I met someone at Taproom that she's from Denver.
She's from Black Denver?
Yeah, she's from Black Denver.
Why do I feel like you're making this up?
I'm being dead ass serious.
You should have brought her on this episode as well to vouch for this Black Denver concept.
Yeah, but
I've not heard of this.
Yeah, so there's communities in there that are just like thriving with black families, things like that. I was like, I would have never thought Denver of all places, but yeah,
people everywhere are doing all kinds of things.
That they are. So I know you were telling me, you guys had definitely bachelor party worthy. Yeah, man.
We had a great time. Got a chance to get out there and do the whole skiing and snowboarding.
Yeah.
That was a great experience. Anybody who's ever tried to go skiing or snowboarding, if you're avid and you've gone to different resorts and different places, apparently there's a big difference between East Coast and West Coast. My first time trying to snowboard was out on the East Coast up in Virginia. And it was late in the season and it wasn't real snow. They had ice and artificial snow up on the slopes.
Like the blue, like Jack Frost Big Boulder type of snow machine.
Some kind of snow machine.
Okay.
You look up, the whole mountain is brown with one little strip of white for the, yeah.
What?
Yeah. So it's like basically trying to ski on a snow cone, essentially. And so
how does that even work?
Not well. That's how it works.
Okay.
Not well.
All right.
So, first of all, we're supposed to have lessons, right? Because, when you're doing something you've never done before, chances are maybe a lesson. And, maybe somebody who's spent their entire life in Florida going to snowboard for the first time might want a lesson.
Yeah, you're going to be falling a lot.
Yeah. So we got the gear. We show up. Instructor didn't. So we get no lessons.
Yeah.
So we pulled a page out the Aaron book. I'll just figure it out. So we just took our gear, went up to the mountain. Like, all right, well, gravity will do most of it. We just got to kind of point ourselves in the right direction.
Oh, you try to pull a Johnny Tsunami.
Easier said than done. Especially with that slope, because with a snowboard, you got to kind of cut in and like carve into the snow. It's not snow, it's ice. So either you sit on top and you just slide, or you like jump and cut into the ice, but it just makes a little rut. And you just go off to the side of the slope where you got mud and rocks because it's not real snow and everything is melting because it's like late April or whenever we were up there.
Yeah.
So, after falling down for like 30, 45 minutes, I finally figured out how to stay straight enough to actually go down the slope. And I get about halfway down, doing probably 20, 30 miles an hour. And I realized that if all you do is fall every 5 feet, you never have to worry about stopping. But that was not a skill I developed.
Okay.
So now we got some tough choices.
All right.
So if there was an e-brake on a snowboard, let's just say I pulled it and went to that big old orange net at the bottom. Okay. So that was the first time snowboarding. So I wasn't really too thrilled about the idea of going to do it again. But, you know, when it's a bachelor party, you do what the bachelor wants to do. So
of course.
He wanted to go skiing and snowboarding. So this time I picked skis.
Okay.
And we actually had lessons. The instructor showed up. It was a much better experience. And we had fresh snow. So that made all the difference. It was a great day. You know, I think they gotten like 10, 12 inches over the past day or two. Nice. And then there was like a light snow while we were there to keep it fresh. So it was a great experience, especially going from the snowboarding to the skis. So we didn't do any black diamonds. You know, we stuck to the greens and the blues. But
I don't blame you.
For the first time skiing,
yeah,
it was enough.
Yeah, you wanna ease yourself into any new experience like that because you have this go big or go home, bro. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, you go big, you might go home, but not under your own power.
Exactly. Yeah,
you won't end up like Sonny Bono or anybody smashing into those trees.
Yeah, and you got your leg broken.
Yeah. Oh, so we had one guy. He didn't even make it. Yeah, he went down in the ski lift. So you got to understand when we left. We flew out of Tampa. We left. It was 88 degrees. When we landed, you know what temperature it was in the breezeway?
What?
8. It was 8 degrees. There was snow in the breezeway. There was snow before we even got in the airport.
It's Colorado. So did you guys pack like you guys packed appropriately, right?
As far as I packed appropriately. As far as I could tell. I mean, I went out, got a ski jacket. I had the layers. I had the thermals.
Nah, I don't blame you.
Yeah, so it was not.
I had thermals when I first came down here. I haven't need for long johns, thermals, anything like that. I might wear occasional sweatpants. And
that's not necessary down here. You don't need that.
Yeah, you really don't.
You can just send that to Goodwill. It's fine. you won't be needing those. It doesn't get that cold. But,
it really doesn't.
Yeah, altitude sickness. For future reference, that is a real thing.
Heard about that. I just don't. It seems very rough.
Yeah, it is. It is rough. You know, the one thing is usually it kind of gives you a little bit of a warning when you're starting to come down with it. You start feeling a little lightheaded, maybe a little short of breath. And if you recognize those signs and just sit down and stay hydrated and do the right things, it might be okay. But if you keep trying to push yourself. Like, no, I got this.
No.
And it's probably not going to go well for you. So we had one guy, he went down in the gondola, like on the way up to the slope. Altitude sickness. Because it's the bachelor party. We're having a good time. People are taking little stories and stuff. Like, yeah, screaming. Yeah. Just that screaming, that was enough.
Oh, my God.
Winded.
Jesus.
Yeah. So when we got off the gondola, by the time we walked to the rental place for the ski equipment, he was like, no, this is not going to be a thing for me. Yeah. I know better. Because can you imagine getting up to the top of the slope and then, like, you can't breathe, you're dizzy, lightheaded, feeling like, and you got to try to somehow get down the slope.
Oh, my God. Nah, that's rough. That's a rough go. So,
yeah.
How was the wedding, though?
The wedding was awesome. The wedding was awesome. I got a tip of the hat to Cliff and Lex. They really killed it. My brother and his bride, they kind of did everything themselves. They had a vision, and then they executed that. They wanted to do something with water in the background because they live out at the beach. They kind of wanted to have some kind of an aquatic aesthetic to the wedding, but they also didn't want to just do a wedding in their backyard either. So
something a little bit more, like up a notch or two.
I mean, real talk. It was largely because you met my brother, right? Yeah. He's in most rooms. He's gonna be the most fun, most popular, most entertaining guy in most rooms that he walks into. Yeah. And his wife is not far behind. Like you put both of them out at a party, that's the party, right? So they know pretty much everybody up and down the beaches. If they tried to do any kind of an event at the beaches, like people would just be walking in off the beach. Oh, hey, yeah, I know y'all. Yeah, no, I know them. It's okay. Let me in. Yeah. It'd be like that. So you couldn't maintain the integrity of the guest list for nothing if they did it there. So that was part of it.
Okay, that makes sense.
Get out of town, go someplace, invite the people that you really want to be there, and everybody's just not inviting themselves just because it's around the corner and it's convenient.
Yeah.
So they did that. They had a kind of a blank canvas to work with. They designed, their whole motif and the table arrangements and the centerpieces and the floating candles. And then she got this idea for a champagne wall, and my brother built that from scratch.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
I forgot he's well, you and him are pretty handy.
Yeah, I mean, when the time calls for it, we can get our Bob Vila on or do a HGTV project. We're not going to make a whole series out of it, but we'll do an isolated project here and there. So, did that, hired bartenders, like everything, he did kind of piecemeal and brought it down there, transformed the entire venue. Her family flew down. We ended up spending the whole weekend like down in like St. Pete Beach area. They got this huge Airbnb. So the whole bridal party would have room to be able to get ready and then, of course, like hang out and party and stuff afterwards. So, it worked out great. The ceremony, though, was super efficient. I don't think I've ever been to a ceremony that was that quick. The officiant, they're like, no, we're not doing vows. We're not saying this, that, and the third. We want to get to that married part.
Oh, okay. So,
yeah, they got it all done.
And I'm sure their reception was one to remember.
Oh man, that reception. There's videos floating around.
I'm sure.
Yeah, that reception was on point. I gotta say, I mean, from the intros for the bridal party, they were getting it. I will say that much.
No, that's good. I mean, because you only have a brother, right? You don't have any other siblings.
I have a sister as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, she doesn't live in Florida, so.
Oh, okay.
That's probably why.
Okay, so that's why I've never met her.
Yeah, she's not local, so you haven't met her.
Okay, is she older, younger?
Older, yeah.
Okay, so she's the oldest.
DC.
She's the oldest?
She's the oldest.
Okay. She having kids or anything like that?
No kids.
Wow, y'all all team no kids.
So far.
Yeah, I mean, it's usually one, like sometimes with that, just a kid kind of just slips through.
This goes back to what you were talking about before. Your whole little rant on rent. And I don't understand how people spend all this money. You only make so much. Like, why are you going out and doing all these things? Kids don't just happen.
That's true.
I mean, no, kids could just happen. Like when you're young.
Exactly.
If you under 20, I will give you the benefit of the doubt. I will give you a pass.
Yeah.
But if you're old enough to drink, you're old enough to think. Okay,
yeah.
You know where kids come from. It's not a secret.
No.
This whole accident thing, I just don't believe in it. So, like, when the resources and things align, like if you wouldn't go and adopt a dog, right? If you didn't have a place to put a dog.
That's true.
Right? So why would you have a child when you have no room for a child? Why would you have a child when you have no resources for a child?
Yeah.
Like, I'll just figure it out. Like, you really going to put somebody's life, the quality of their existence, you're going to just trust that I'll figure it out.
I've seen it happen so many times. It's ridiculous. I'm like, you could barely afford to survive yourself.
Yeah.
Let alone another human being.
By. Barely. Right? So how is that empowering you to bring another life into the world? It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't.
So when the circumstances are right,
then
you start doing that.
Yeah. Same.
So I mean, my mentality is my child's not going to have everything because I don't want them to have everything because I want them to have perspective.
Exactly.
Right. I don't want them growing up to be Donald Trump. Right. That would be terrible.
Yeah. And unfortunately, it's one of those things where when you have a kid and you come from very humble beginnings, there's always this balance because you can instill as much like life lessons, but it's always that trade-off to where what's that saying? Hard men make softer times, softer men make harder times.
Good men or strong men make good times. Weak men make hard times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times it's a cycle. You'll see parents who struggle and they work real hard and they provide a great life for their kid. Their kid doesn't experience the struggle. Exactly. They don't appreciate the things that they grew up with because they've always had them. They don't work as hard and they end up struggling. And because they struggle, their kids like, well, I don't want to live this life. So then they go and work hard. And so it kind of skips generations potentially.
I've definitely seen it. I've definitely seen it skip generations, or I've seen it
skip like siblings or where it's like you guys all grew up in the same house.
Yes, well, that's a whole different concept.
Yeah, that's true.
Because if we grow up in the same environment, if we have access to the same resources, and I excel and you fail, that's not an indictment on our environment.
It's an indictment on you.
At the end of the day, I mean, I've got friends who are very successful, and they've got siblings that are struggling, and they've tried at every turn to try to help them and to reach out and do better. I mean, again, it goes back to the apartment thing. Like, people are going to spend their time and their resources on things that bring them joy.
Yeah.
And you can't assume that because you like nice things, you like living in a safe neighborhood, you like having a big house, you like having nice cars, that's what motivates everybody. Some people don't. Some people, they just want to go and listen to live music at the local bar, and get so drunk that they can just barely find their way home every night. And, like, that's a great time for them.
Yeah.
And they're close enough to walk, so they don't even need a car.
That's true.
I mean, you can't imprint your standards on somebody else as far as happiness. Now, if they tell you that they want these things, but they're not doing the actions it takes to get them, that's another conversation.
So you're married. I know your
brother
is married.
Yep.
Is your sister married?
No.
Okay. So, I mean, you've been married for how long now?
7 years.
Okay. So, what is your perspective on married life?
Oh, that's the greatest cheat code in the world, man. That's the key to real happiness. So the key with marriage is just to do it right. I mean, that sounds easier said than done, right? Yeah. But the number one thing in marriage, and it probably sounds old or cliche, but it's worth repeating, is communication. Communication, communication, communication. Because however much you think that you know someone, when you agree to spend the rest of your life with them and you intertwine your finances and every other aspect of your life, your family, like, you're going to find out some things you didn't know.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to figure out how to process those differences. Like, there's compromises that need to be made. But compromise doesn't necessarily mean they win and I lose or vice versa.
Yeah.
Compromise means you have a conversation. You figure out what the actual ideas are that are important, the end goals that are important, and you devise a plan to get there. Because you may find that there's like a chore, right?
Yeah.
That your spouse or your significant other hates doing. Like, they hate it. Like, if they have to do it, it will ruin their entire day, and they will be absolute shit to be around. And you're like, I don't mind doing that at all. That's fine. And so, for the sake of the relationship and the happiness of the household, like, that's just something that you do. Whenever it needs to be done, you pick it up and do it. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Like, you don't care. But it means a lot more to them than it does to you. The other thing is that some people value being right more than anything else.
Yeah.
And in many contexts, I will admit, I could be accused of being such a person. However, when it comes to marriage and relationships, happiness is the most important thing, not being right. Right? So if there's some kind of argument, disagreement, topic that maybe somebody doesn't want to talk about, but you need to, sometimes you just got to be the bigger person and just force that conversation. Talk about your issues, work it out, and be honest with yourself. The biggest problem is people jump into marriage and they're trying to figure somebody else out. They don't even know themselves.
Yeah.
And if you don't know you, how could you pretend to help another person get to know you when you don't know you yourself?
Yeah.
Like, people need to do a lot of introspection before they decide they want to make a lifelong commitment.
It's
So, yeah, that's kind of the high level overview.
Yeah, because I mean, for me, I do want to get married. I do want to have a family. And at this present point in my life, I finally know exactly who I am. Took a lot of trials and tribulations to get here.
Yeah.
But now it's figuring out who my partner is going to be. Doesn't matter if they're of my same culture or background, things like that. It's someone I can be myself with and sit on the couch with my dog and get fat.
So you're not looking for somebody in the gym, is what I'm hearing.
No, I'm still looking for somebody. I'm still looking for somebody in the gym. So, okay. All right.
Who goes to the gym so they can go home and get fat?
I mean,
who is that person?
Okay, so somebody I can be happy with.
That's fair. Like, you need to share values. That's the most important thing. People get hung up on creating checklists. Oh, they got to be 6'3". They got to drive a 2006 or newer. They got to work at such and such a firm. And I'm like, they have to.
Do they treat you right? Because all of those things, if they don't treat you right, all those things don't matter. And even like, you have certain people to where they go out with somebody for 2 or 3 times, and it's like, okay, well, we gonna do this relationship thing or not? Are you wasting my time? I don't even know you. Mm-hmm. I don't know who you are as a person. You're an idea. The same way women a lot of the times are ideas to men, and vice versa. You look aesthetically pleasing. I don't know what you sound like. I don't even know what's in your mind. Yeah, I don't know what you care about.
That's the most important thing. What do you care about? What are your values?
Exactly.
You say, oh, treat you right. Well, what does right mean to you? You know, there are people who grew up in a physically abusive household. So to them, right is everything short of punching them in the throat, right? Yeah. But then you have people that grow up in a very loving, caring, nurturing household. And if you even raise your voice, like, they're going to burst into tears. Yeah. You got to understand who you're dealing with, you know, how their past has shaped who they are now. Exactly. And more importantly, like, where they see themselves going in the future. Because just because somebody had a rough time, you know, if they're better now, they still want to get better. You know, there's a path forward, perhaps, where you guys can have a meeting of the minds. You can work that out. Yeah. But that's never going to happen if you don't have those conversations.
Yeah. I feel like everybody deserves to be happy. But you have a lot of people that, like you said before, these certain checklists to where, like, I understand preferences, I understand standards. But I feel like men and women conflate those things to where it's like, if I was dating a woman and I'm like the first guy that picked her up in a car or wined and dined her. Okay. But out of the 10 people, I'm including one of them, I did that. Where the others might have took her to Domino's or took her to the bar and got, you know, happy hour drinks, you know, buy one, get one. And there's a lot of, you know, women and men that they get something in the small minority and then they believe that's a standard when it's that was never a standard. You got something that was not usual. And now because you've gotten that, now you believe that that's what you should be getting all the time when you were never getting that on a consistent basis. And even if that's the case, a lot of the times that you're not with that person that gave you that. So why is that?
I mean, at the end of the day, people set their own standards. Yeah. You know, one of the biggest problems in dating and in terms of people and their happiness, and not just in romantic relationships, you know, in family relationships and platonic relationships and work relationships, you are responsible for your happiness. Yeah. You are. No one else isn't. Like, your wife isn't, your husband isn't. You are responsible for your happiness. If someone is doing something that makes you unhappy, it's your responsibility to figure out how you're going to handle that situation. Exactly. Just like with standards, right? If you might not have a car. You might only have one pair of shoes. You might be living in a 1-bedroom apartment, you know, and rent's looking kind of iffy. But your standard might be, you know, anyone that I go out with is going to treat me with respect. You know, I might be raised such that, like, okay, on the first date, you know, if you invite me out, like, you're going to pay because you invited me out. Like, maybe that's your standard. Maybe that's your understanding. Yeah. You can create that if you want to. Now, could you create standards that mean that it's very unlikely that someone's going to meet them or be willing to go up to that level? Yeah. But nobody says you have to be with anybody. You can be alone until someone meets the standards that you set for yourself. Exactly. Or you reevaluate your situation and decide that you want to make a change to your standards. But the thing is that once you set a standard, you have to adhere to it. Like, you can't start lying to yourself. That's a slippery slope. If you say, I'm not going to accept this, don't accept it. If you decide you want to change that, make that a conscious decision. Don't make it an in-the-moment thing. Don't let your standards slide because somebody offers you less. Make your standards change because you decide that you want to change your standard. But if you want to be happy, I would offer this. Don't have a list of what you're looking for. Have a list of what you won't tolerate. It'll be a much shorter list. It'll be a lot easier to remember. Yeah. Like, For me, like smoking cigarettes, like that was a non-starter. That's just not going to work. I mean, you're cool. You know, I love everything that you're doing with your situation. I wish you the best of luck. Yeah. But that's just not something that I'm going to have in my life. That's not something I'm going to tolerate. Like, there's no wiggle room on that.
Yeah. Plus, that just stinks.
Yeah, it stinks. It's bad for your health. It's expensive. I mean, there's really no positives. You know, don't at me. Don't at me. But, you know, fake hair and all that was another one. Not trying to deal with that. Simply because it looks great in pictures, and that's cool. But it's a lot different when you have a picture versus having to deal with something in real life.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, I mean, you go to give somebody a hug, you accidentally, touch it. World War III. No.
Yeah.
No, not having that. Oh, why don't we go swimming? No. I can't go swimming. Exactly. Can't go to the beach.
Yeah.
Can't do this. Can't do that.
I spent $500 on my.
For something. I would go to the gym, but
I'm just gonna sweat that out.
Nah.
You got nothing but baby hair. Like, oh my God.
Again, to each your own. Yeah. Like, there are things that matter to me that don't matter to you. There are things that are going to matter to, the next person that neither one of us care about. Yeah. Your happiness, again, is your happiness. You know what you can put up with. You know what you want to have in your life. Develop a vision for your future. And really think honestly. Like, sit down, take some time, and think about what you want your future to look like, and the type of person who might be able to do that with you.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much where I'm at currently right now. It's, a lot of these girls I'm talking to, none of them look like. And that's just...
Well, you said you don't know what they look like?
No, none of them look alike.
Oh.
A lot of them don't look alike.
Well, good. That means you're not talking to triplets.
So I know you've been, quite some time, married, but, how was pre-married JP life?
Oh, pre-married JP life was waiting for this married life to pop up. Like, I joke with my wife, like, all the time. She's like, oh, don't you wish sometimes you were still running the streets? Like, no, absolutely not. Like, there is nothing appealing about that. So many situations that people get, so many sketchy situations and not well thought out situations people find themselves in because they're out there chasing.
The amount of dummy missions I went on in my life is ridiculous.
See, I'm not trying to go on dummy missions. I'm not trying. And you also have to consider too that there's a time frame difference, right? So I've been married for 7 years. We've been together longer. Oh. So this predates all this like Tinder and Bumble and all these little slide in the DM apps where you're just, that really cheapens relationships in my view by a large extent. Like it just puts an easy button on things and it makes it less likely that you're going to have real substantive conversations with people. Yeah. Because before you would have to go out and actually meet people. Right? There would be some form of commonality. Oh, I met this person at the gym. I met him at the library. I met him in school. I met him at work. Like, for the fact that you meet them somewhere, you know at least a little bit about one aspect of their life. And you probably know other people who know them even better than you do. And so you can talk to them and figure that out. When you're just swiping on profiles, your perspective is pretty limited. And in most cases, pretty shallow. With the exception, obviously, of like those apps that are really based on commonality.
Yeah, a lot of the times.
But yeah, this pre-married life, I was focused on other things. So
I kind of seemed like, to me, like even when like I met you initially, and you remind me, I wouldn't say like Spock, but like like if Spock was like almost like. Spock was and I had to say
yeah, his name was Tuvok. He was on Space 9.
But if like Spock and Kirk combined, or like
this starting to sound some nasty fan fiction.
So when I say what I mean by that is very like logical, but also still able to move and shake. Still be able to move and shake out there, which is a lot of the times you don't. It's either one or the other. It's usually even for me, which people are very surprised when I say I'm an introverted person. They're like, "What?"
Yeah, that sounds very much like a falsehood.
Yeah,
based on what I've seen.
Yeah, but again, this was a process, but even, I feel like there's not like you're logical enough to where a lot of things aren't going to just like you weren't driven by that. It was there if you went out and tried to get it, but it wasn't a very driving force like a lot of the times.
Yeah.
For guys are where it's like you're chasing girls because it's like, all right, well, if I go and get a girl, that is fine. I mean, now it's like
it's kind of like, and I hate to use any kind of analogy involving dogs when it comes to men and women and those interactions, but it's kind of like a dog you have in the yard, right? And every time a squirrel jumps in the yard, the dog wants to chase it, chase it, right? But like once you catch the squirrel and you know what squirrel tastes like, I mean, do you have to chase every single squirrel?
You really don't. And
you've kind of been there. You've done that.
I just feel like, because, like I came up as far as like when I graduated high school, that's when the app still came out.
Mm-hmm.
So still in person, and it was like that was just the cherry on top. And now you have a whole generation of guys that they've never even approached a girl, to where they've been. With filters and things like that, can make themselves attractive enough.
Well, I remember the worst thing in the world was that MySpace angle. Remember how people used to be getting got like with the up at the ankle and they'd be turning sideways and like using the reflection in the mirror.
Oh my god!
And I'm like, oh hey, look at her. And then
it's just like, oh my god,
it's like a funhouse mirror. Like
pretty much
the lies.
Nah.
But now filters they are. Yeah. And then you've seen some of these videos with contouring. With the crazy makeup, I mean, they could get a job at like Universal Studios or a hollow screen.
They fucking build faces.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. But
I mean, it's crazy.
And
these apps really don't help with establishing genuine connections.
No, they don't. I mean, it's one of the things where people are like, they're very like, well, you're on Tinder or you're on Bumble or you're on Hinge, and it's like, I'm always where it's like, if you like me and I like you, but it's like they want the relationship. They want a relationship in like a couple interactions.
I mean, that's how many clicks it took to get to your picture. So why not?
Yeah, I
found you in a couple seconds. Why can't it be a relationship in a couple seconds?
And a lot of the times where you have a lot of people where it's, again, I'm just too old to be lying about what I want. Where you have people that they don't want these people.
Mm-hmm.
You really just want to have sex with them. That's all you want from them. Like, I would say in this generation, the term hate fuck is very prevalent. Because there's people that maybe meet you with your friends, but it's like, I would never invite you to meet my parents. And just because they're aesthetically pleasing or something about
where does the hate come in? I mean, I haven't heard what sounds like the hate part of that.
They don't like them as people. They don't.
Do they even know them as people to make that assessment?
No. They're just going off of, more times than not, physicality. Or, I mean, you've seen in the media where it's like, I hate you, and then they end up going at it. And
see, and that's interesting. I was talking to somebody about that not too long ago.
I never understood that.
I'm like, that's not real life. Like,
no.
That is not what two emotionally stable people, like, that's not how people behave.
Yeah.
Like, if that's real life for you, you should probably
I mean, you have a lot
seek counseling.
You have a lot
help.
of people where it's like, no, this was nice. Yeah, I'm not gonna, like, you're not meeting like my grandmother or anything like that type of deal. Where it's like, what? Because they just look good. They just look good, and they stimulate them sexually, but that's about it. And it's the weird.
That's what those apps are for. In my view. Like, if that's what you're looking for, then go on the app and go find that. If you want to get on eHarmony or Match.com, where you have to fill out an actual profile and talk about things other than, how many followers you got on Instagram for your little MySpace angle photos, then, maybe that's where people will go who are looking for real connections.
Yeah.
Or heaven forbid, go to like a speed dating thing in person or go to concerts and festivals.
Yeah.
I'm a big proponent of be in your element. Like, live your authentic life. Be in your truth. You like Cobra Kai. If they had a Cobra Kai convention and you went, rest assured that any girl that you see there you're going to have something to talk about. There's at least that one point of commonality. Like
Yeah.
there's something that you have in common. With these apps, literally the only thing you have in common is I like the way you look. You might literally hate every single other element about their personality, about their upbringing, about their political views. Like, you don't know any of those things. You know, that's not on the profile.
Yep.
So, you know, it's just all about what you're looking for, right? If I want good food, you know, I'm going to go to Ruth's Chris. If I want fast food, I'm going to go to McDonald's. But I'm not going to go to Ruth's Chris and complain that the prices are too high, just like I'm not going to go to McDonald's and complain that they don't have a filet mignon.
Yeah.
Like, you got to look for the right things in the right places. So, you know, more power to you. If you're on the apps looking for a little bit of strange to get you through the weekend, cool. You know, do you. But don't be complaining because you didn't find your husband in 2 days.
Like, don't be surprised. So,
yeah.
I'm going to ask you one more question. We're going to get out of here. So, if you were to give any advice to any young man or woman to find their partner, what would that be?
So, I'm trying to wrap it all together here. So as far as finding a partner, number one thing, and I know it may be tough, stop looking. Like, stop actively searching. Stop being thirsty. Because that's the number one way to ensure that you're pushing too hard, you're doing too much, you know, you're out of your element, you're not putting your best foot forward. You know, focus on being in your element. Focus on being the best you can be. You know, when you're doing the things that give you joy, when you're in your element doing things that you like, the people that you're going to meet when you're being your best self, that's going to be the people that you need to strongly consider. 1. 2, don't have a list of things that you must have. Like, don't pretend like you have the clairvoyance to know exactly what your significant other is going to look like. You don't. Like, I had an ex who we're now friends from way back in the day, and like, she had a very specific list. It was a long list, like 20 items. It was ridiculous.
What?
Yeah, this same person left like 32 voicemail messages in like one day. So,
oh my God.
You know,
okay. All right. Fair enough.
You know, exes are exes for a reason.
Yeah.
But in any event, you know, one of the things she had on her list was like, absolutely, you know, no Latin guys, no Chinese guys. I'm like, damn, what did those two do? Everybody else was on the table, but those two, no. Now she's married with 2 kids. You know who she's married to? A Chinese guy. Right? And
some people block their blessings.
They might try, right? But now she's happy. You know, she's married. She's got kids. But if she listened to that little silly list, she would never even gave him a shot. Would never even talk to him.
It's crazy.
So you don't know. Like, the most important things are not going to be, you know, aesthetics. They are important, but it's not going to be the most important thing. You know, you got to look at what you really care about. What are your values? And have honest conversations. The other thing too is, like, you got to be honest. Got to be honest with yourself before anything else, right? There are people that will go around and they'll see someone that looks attractive, that maybe even, you know, has an interesting job. They legitimately like this person. And then they pretend to be into things that person's into to try to spend time with them. And they continue this route. And, you know, if that relationship goes on long enough, that person is thinking, oh man, I found the perfect one. You know, she likes all the things I like.
Exactly.
And then at some point, she'll be like, you know, I really don't want to do this anymore. She's like, what? And they're going to feel betrayed. They're going to feel lied to. They're going to feel deceived.
Yes.
And these are not feelings that are helpful in promoting a strong or healthy relationship. So, you know, be honest with people from jump. Like, don't close yourself off to new experiences. If somebody says, hey, I want to go skydiving, if you've never been, you don't think you'll like it, I mean, go. Maybe you will like it, maybe you won't. At least after you do it, you can be honest and like, hey, yeah, no, I was scared shitless. We're not ever doing that. But, you know, just be honest up front with people. And then finally, communication.
Okay.
You know, don't be afraid to have the tough conversations, because conversations never get easier. Like, you ignore something, problems are going to grow. They never solve themselves.
That they do.
So you can either deal with a little problem now, or you can deal with a big problem later. You know, that's your choice to make.
Okay. Well, with that being the case, guys, we're going to get out of here. Before we go, where can they find you at?
So you can find me on eBay at Business Bushido. Same thing with Instagram at Business Bushido. And Facebook, there's a page there as well at Business Bushido.
Okay.
So
Well, with that being said, guys, we are out of here. Later, guys. Peace.